the silence came without warning. One moment, the deep space arrays were humming with the usual cosmic static, distant pulsars, solar winds, the faint whispers of faraway galaxies. The next, nothing. Not a crackle, not a blip. Just empty air where the universe used to speak. On the research vessel, Auriga, orbiting the icy edge of the solar system near the Oort cloud, junior xenolinguist Elias Varek was the first to notice. He had been sifting through data from Array Theta 9, a long-range listening post anchored to a frozen rock half a light-year from Earth. His job was simple: listen for patterns, for anything that might hint at intelligence beyond human reach. For years he'd heard only noise, but today, the noise was gone. He leaned closer to his screen, eyes narrowing. "That's not right," he muttered. Around him, the Auriga's science deck buzzed with routine activity. Techs calibrating sensors, biologists monitoring microgravity plant growth, engineers running diagnostics. No one else seemed to care. Silence in deep space wasn't unusual. Equipment failed, solar flares interfered, but this felt different. Too clean, too complete. Elias pulled up logs from other arrays. Theta 7, silent. Theta 12, dead. Even the civilian deep-range telescopes run by universities showed the same. Total radio quiet. It was as if every star, every nebula, every black hole had suddenly decided to stop making sound. He flagged it to Commander Rivas, but she dismissed it with a wave. Probably a system-wide glitch, run a reboot sequence. But Elias couldn't shake the feeling. He stayed late, long after his shift ended, cross-referencing old signal maps with real-time feeds. And then, there it was. Buried beneath layers of corrupted data, almost invisible. A repeating pulse. Not random, not natural. 3 long tones, followed by 2 short, then silence. Over and over, like a heartbeat or a call. He traced its origin. It wasn't coming from any known star system. It was coming from something much closer. Something drifting just beyond the Auriga's outer sensor range. The next morning, he presented his findings. This time, Rivas listened. The pulse matched no human transmission. No known alien signal either, because as far as humanity knew, there were no aliens. Not really. A few disputed fragments from centuries ago, all debunked. Officially, humans were alone. But this signal, it felt alive. Within hours, the Auriga adjusted course. Its long-range scanners locked onto the source, a vessel. Not human, not built for speed or war. It was massive, smooth, and dark, like polished obsidian shaped by wind and time. No lights, no engine glow. Just a silent shape hanging in the void. They called it Object K7. Commander Rivas ordered a cautious approach. No active scans, no hails, just passive observation. But after 12 hours of watching the object drift, doing nothing, she authorized a boarding team. Elias wasn't supposed to go. He was a linguist, not a soldier. But he argued that if there was writing, symbols, anything inside, he might be the only one who could understand it. Reluctantly, Rivas agreed. The shuttle ride was tense. Outside, the stars seemed dimmer, as if afraid to shine. The alien ship loomed larger with every kilometer. Smooth curves, no visible seams, no docking ports. Yet as the shuttle neared, a section of the hull shimmered, then opened like a flower blooming in slow motion. Inside, darkness. The team entered, in full envirosuits, mug boots clicking against the floor. The air inside was cold but breathable, somehow. Gravity was Earth normal. No signs of damage, no bodies, just endless corridors that curved gently, as if grown rather than built. They found the chamber on the 3rd level. It was vast, a dome, taller than a cathedral, filled with rows upon rows of transparent pods. Each one glowed faintly blue. Inside, beings of every imaginable shape slept in stasis. Some insect-like, some crystalline, some made of shifting mist. Dozens of species, maybe hundreds, all preserved, all silent. And in the very center, one pod stood apart. It held a human, not just human, familiar. The face was calm, eyes closed, skin pale from long sleep. Wore a simple gray suit with no insignia, no ID. But Elias knew, with a chill down his spine, that this person shouldn't be here. Humans hadn't built ships like this, hadn't traveled this far, hadn't left the solar system in anything but robotic probes. Scan him, Rivas ordered over the comms. The medtech ran a bio-reader over the pod. Vitals stable, stasis field intact, estimated time in suspension, over 200 years. 200 years? Before the first Mars colony? Before fusion drives? Impossible. Elias stepped closer. On the pod surface, faint symbols pulsed, similar to the ones in the signal. He reached out, fingers hovering. Without thinking, he whispered the pattern aloud. Long, 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 short, short. The moment he spoke, the symbols brightened. The pod hissed, a seam appeared along the lid. "No, wait!" Rivas shouted, but it was too late. The lid slid open, cold vapor spilled out. The human inside didn't move, but the ship around them changed. Lights flickered to life in the corridors. A low hum filled the air like a machine waking from a dream. Then the comms died, not just static, total blackout. No link to the shuttle, no signal to the Auriga, no contact with Earth. It was as if the universe had sealed them in a bubble. Panic rose. The team regrouped, weapons drawn, though there was nothing to shoot at. Elias stayed by the pod, heart pounding. The human's chest rose and fell, alive. But why was he here? Who put him here? He noticed something clutched in the man's hand, a small, smooth crystal, warm to the touch. Elias carefully pried it free. It pulsed once, softly, like a heartbeat syncing with his own. Back on the Auriga, chaos erupted. All external comms were dead. Navigation systems glitched. Sensors showed nothing beyond the hull, just black. Even the stars were gone from the viewports, replaced by a smooth, featureless dark. Rivas ordered immediate evacuation, but the shuttle wouldn't respond. Its systems were locked out, trapped. Elias returned to the science deck with the crystal hidden in his pocket. Alone in his quarters, he plugged it into a secure data port. Files unfolded, logs, star maps, voices speaking in languages he'd never heard yet somehow understood. They spoke of a great silence, of a choice made by the oldest civilizations, of a quarantine not of disease but of thought itself, and then a final entry in rough, broken English. They turned away, called us too loud, too wild, too full of hope. But we found a place that still listens, a young species, fragile, beautiful. They don't know what they carry, but they will. The log ended. Elias stared at the screen, breath shallow. Outside his window, the blackness pressed in. No stars, no signals, no help. But inside his pocket, the crystal pulsed again. Steady, calm, certain. Somewhere in the ship, the human in the pod stirred, and far beyond the Oort cloud, something ancient and vast began to turn its attention towards Sol. Not with anger, but with fear. On Earth, deep beneath the lunar surface at Luna Station's command hub, Officer Mara Lin was reviewing routine patrol logs when the alert flashed red. Not an emergency, just a Priority 1 anomaly from the outer rim. The Auriga had gone dark. No distress call, no mayday. Just silence after 17 hours of normal operation. Mara frowned. She knew the Auriga, knew its crew, and she knew Elias Varick. Quiet, sharp-eyed, the kind of scientist who noticed things others missed. If he'd gone silent, something was wrong. She pulled up the last known transmission, fragmented, corrupted, but one phrase repeated like a ghost. They're not refugees. They're survivors, her gut twisted. Protocol said wait for orders. Earth Command was already divided. Some wanted to shut down all deep space missions after the silence event. Others pushed for more probes, more listening. No one agreed on anything. But Mara didn't wait. She requisitioned the Wayfarer, a stealth frigate designed for reconnaissance, not rescue. Small crew, Fast engines. No official mission logged, just a systems test near Jupiter. She handpicked 3. Jax, a grizzled engineer who'd flown with her since Mars. Tessa, a comms expert with nerves of ice. And Ren, a medic who'd seen too many bodies float in 0G. They launched within the hour. The trip to the Oort cloud took 11 days. 11 days of tension, of checking sensors every hour, of wondering if they were flying into a trap. The silence still held no signals from any deep space array. The stars themselves seemed muted. When they finally dropped out of fold space near the Auriga's last coordinates, what they saw stopped them cold. The research vessel hung motionless, lights dim, hull intact. Tethered to it, like a leech clinging to a sleeping whale, was a ship unlike anything in human records. Smooth, black, no visible seams. It gave off no heat, no radiation, no energy signature at all. Yet it was there, real and heavy in the void. "Scan it," Mara ordered. "Nothing," Tessa said, voice tight. "Like it's not even there. But my eyes say it is." They docked with the Auriga using manual clamps. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. No signs of struggle. No blood, no bodies. Just empty corridors, flickering lights, and a single data terminal still active in the science lab. Elias was slumped over it, unconscious, but alive. Ren stabilized him while Mara accessed the logs. What she found made her blood run cold. Cryopods, hundreds of them. Different species. One human, and a message buried in alien code. "The sky is dead." They sealed it shut. Then she found the crystal in Elias's pocket. Back on the Wayfarer, Elias woke with a gasp. He babbled about voices, about a quarantine, about a human from a lost world. At first, Mara thought he was delirious, but then he played the logs from the crystal. They watched footage of the chamber, rows of sleeping beings, each pod labeled with symbols that shifted meaning as they watched. The final log showed the human in the pod opening his eyes for a split second before the recording cut out. "This isn't just a ship," Elias whispered. "It's an ark." "And they were abandoned. By who?" Mara asked. "The ones who built the silence," he said. "The old ones. They decided intelligence was a disease, so they cut off the galaxy, left everyone to die alone." Mara stared at the alien vessel through the viewport. It hadn't moved, hadn't reacted, but now she noticed something new, a faint shimmer along its hull like ripples on water. "We need to bring it back," she said. "You can't," Elias warned. "If Earth sees this, they'll weaponize it, or destroy it out of fear." "Then we don't tell them everything," Mara replied. "We say it's derelict, say we recovered data, but we bring the ship, and him." He nodded toward the cryopod, which they'd carefully transferred to the Wayfarer's medbay. Jax rigged a tow cable. It took 3 tries before the alien ship accepted the link, not with mechanics, but with a soft pulse of light that sealed the connection like living tissue. As they prepared to leave, Tessa's console beeped. A new signal, weak but clear. Not from Earth, not from any human source. It was coming from the alien ship, not a warning. Not a threat, a question, 3 long tones. Too short. The same pattern Elias had heard. He placed his hand on the hull of the pod. "It's asking if we're ready." "For what?" Mara asked. "To listen." They jumped to fold space just as the first tremor hit. Not an explosion. Not an attack. But a ripple in space itself, like reality, had flinched. Sensors went wild. Stars blinked out for a full second. Then returned slightly. "Wrong. Something's out there," Tessa said, voice shaking. "Big, and it noticed us." Mara didn't answer. She watched the alien ship through the rear cam. It glowed faintly now, as if waking. And inside the medbay, the human in the pod stirred again. His fingers twitching, his lips moving in silent words no one could hear. Back on Luna Station, alarms blared. Not because of the Wayfarer's return, but because every deep space array had just picked up a new signal. Faint, distant, but growing stronger, and it was speaking human languages. Not English. Not Mandarin. Not any single tongue. It spoke them all at once, layered like music, forming a sentence that repeated across every channel. "They are coming home." Earth Command scrambled. Fleets powered up. Politicians shouted. Scientists wept. But Mara knew the truth. The signal wasn't from Earth, it was from the Ark. And it wasn't announcing arrival. It was calling for help. Because the silence hadn't ended. It had just found them. As the Wayfarer docked at Luna's hidden bay, cloaked from official sensors, Mara made a choice. She erased the full logs, kept only fragments, enough to prove discovery, not enough to reveal the truth. She smuggled the cryopod into a secure lab beneath Sector 9 where no one would look. Elias stayed with her. So did the others. They were outlaws now, but they were also the first line of defense. That night, alone in the lab, Mara stood before the pod. The human inside opened his eyes, not startled, not confused. He looked at her like he'd been waiting. His voice was rough from centuries of sleep, but clear. "You're the ones who said yes," he said. Mara didn't understand. To the question, he added, when the cosmos turned away, "You opened your door." She had no answer, only a growing dread and a strange sense of hope. Outside, the stars watched, silent no more. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the old ones stirred. They had thought the galaxy was quiet. They were wrong. The human from the pod called himself Kale. He spoke slowly, as if remembering how to shape words after a long sleep. He told them he was from Proxima B, a world that, according to Earth's history books, had never held human life. The colony there, if it ever existed, had vanished over a century ago during the early expansion era. No wreckage, no signals, just gone. But Kale remembered green skies, twin suns, and cities built into living rock. He remembered the day the sky went quiet, not with noise but with absence. One moment, their quantum comms linked them to Earth, Mars, the outer stations. The next, nothing, like a thread had been cut across all of space. "They didn't attack us," Kale said, sitting on a medcot in the hidden lab beneath Luna Station. "They just stopped listening, and then they came for us." "Who?" Mara asked. "The Keepers," he replied. "Not soldiers, not gods, just the oldest minds in the galaxy. They decided thought itself was dangerous. Too much connection, too much dreaming. It was tearing reality apart at the edges. So they built the silence, cut every world off from every other, left each species to fade alone." Elias leaned forward, eyes wide. "That's why the arrays went dead." "They didn't break, they were blocked." Kale nodded. "The ark you found. It was a last hope, built by those who refused to accept the silence. They gathered survivors from dying worlds, put them in stasis, and sent the ship drifting, searching for a species that hadn't been sealed away yet." "Why us?" Mara asked. "Because you weren't ready," Kyle said softly. "You were still young, still messy, still full of questions. The Keepers ignored you, thought you'd burn yourselves out before you could reach the stars. But your noise, your music, your broadcasts, your wars, and your love songs, it leaked through the cracks. The Ark heard it, and it came." He reached into his tunic and pulled out a thin strip of metal etched with spiraling lines. "This is the key, hidden in our blood. In yours too, maybe." The Keepers tried to erase it from every genome they could find, but Proxima B was too far, too hidden. "We kept it alive." Elias took the strip. It hummed against his skin. "What does it do?" "It doesn't unlock a door," Kale said. "It mends the tear." The silence isn't just quiet, it's a wound in space-time, caused by minds thinking too loudly, too fast, too together. The key stabilizes it, lets thought exist without breaking the universe. Mara's mind raced. If this was true, humanity wasn't just a bystander. They were part of the cure. But before they could act, alarms blared through the station. Not the usual drills, but emergency lockdown. Someone had found them. Earth Command had traced the Wayfarer's unauthorized return. Security teams were sweeping Sector 9. They had minutes. Jax rigged a backdoor route through old maintenance tunnels. Tessa wiped their digital trail. Ren carried medical supplies. Elias held the data crystal. Mara helped Kale walk. His legs were weak from centuries of stasis. They fled into the lower levels of Luna Station, where oxygen was thinner and lights flickered. They hid in an abandoned hydroponics bay surrounded by dead vines and rusted pipes. "We can't run forever," Mara said, breath fogging in the cold air. "We don't need to," Kyle replied. "We need to find the carriers." "Carriers?" Elias asked. "The key isn't just in metal," Kale explained. "It's in DNA, a rare sequence. Only a few humans have it, people whose ancestors came from Proxima B, or who inherited the trait by chance. They're the anchors. Without them, the key is just a song with no singer." Elias remembered the genetic markers in the Ark's logs. "There's a global biobank on Luna. All human DNA samples are stored there for medical research. Mara's eyes narrowed. It's guarded heavily. Then we break in, Jack said, cracking his knuckles. Under cover of a scheduled power shift, they moved. Tessa hacked the outer gate using a stolen maintenance drone. Ren created a diversion by triggering a false oxygen leak in another sector. Inside the biobank, rows of cryotubes glowed blue, each holding genetic material from millions of people. Elias plugged the crystal into the main terminal. It synced instantly, scanning for the sequence Kyle described. The system whirred, lights flashing red, then green. One match: Anya Rios, age 16, from the Andes Research Colony, currently working as a junior data archivist in Luna's Historical Records Division. She's just a kid, Mara said. She's the only one, Kale replied. They found Anya in a quiet corner of the archives, sorting old Earth newsreels. She had dark eyes, quick hands, and a habit of humming while she worked. When Mara explained who they were and why they needed her, she didn't scream. Didn't run. She just stared at Kale like she'd been expecting him. I've been hearing voices, she said quietly. Not real ones. In my dreams. They say the stars are waiting. Kale knelt before her. You carry the song. Will you sing it? Anya nodded. They brought her to the hidden lab. The moment she stepped inside, the alien ship, still tethered to the Wayfarer in the secret dock, began to glow. A low tone filled the air, resonating through the station's metal bones. Elias connected Anya to a neural reader. Her brainwaves synced with the Ark's frequency. Symbols appeared on every screen. Languages long dead, star maps of forgotten systems, memories of civilizations that chose to sleep rather than die. The archive is alive, Elias whispered, and it recognizes her. But their time was up. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. Earth Command had found them. Not just security, military, armed. Ordered to seize the Ark and all associated personnel. Mara shoved a pistol into Anya's hands. Stay behind me. Kyle stood at the center of the room, arms outstretched. There's no time for fighting. The keepers are coming. As if on cue, the lights dimmed. Not from a power loss, but from something outside. Through a small viewport, they saw it. Space itself bending. Stars stretched into lines. A shadow, vast and smooth, slid into view beyond the moon. Not a ship. A presence. The keepers had arrived. Their vessel made no sound. Cast no reflection. It simply was, like a hole in reality. Inside the lab, Anya gasped. Blood trickled from her nose. It hurts, she whispered. They're trying to erase me. Kale grabbed her shoulders. You're not alone. The archive is with you. So are we. Mara raised her weapon, not at the soldiers pounding on the door, but at the viewport. What do we do? The chamber, Kale said. The heart of the Ark. She has to go inside. To become the anchor. But it'll kill her, Elias said, horrified. Or save everyone, Kale replied. The door burst open. Soldiers flooded in, rifles raised. Mara fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Stand down. You don't understand what's happening. But they didn't listen. Orders were orders. In the chaos, Anya ran, not away, but toward the hidden elevator that led to the dock. Elias followed. Kale stayed behind, facing the soldiers with empty hands. You can take me, he said calmly, but you can't stop what's coming. As the elevator descended, Anya clutched Elias's arm. I'm scared. I know, he said. But you're the first human who's ever been asked to heal the sky. That's not nothing. They reached the Wayfarer. The alien ship pulsed like a heartbeat. A path of light opened in its hull. Anya stepped forward. Behind them, alarms wailed. Soldiers shouted. But none of it mattered now. The cosmos had turned its back. But a girl from the Andes walked into the dark and began to sing. The chamber inside the alien ship was not made of metal or stone. It felt like standing inside a thought. Soft light, shifting walls, air that hummed with memory. Anya stepped in alone. Elias wanted to follow, but the entrance sealed behind her with a sigh like a door closing on a dream. Outside, chaos reigned. Soldiers had taken Kale. Mara and Jax were pinned down near the dock's control room. Tessa fought to keep the Wayfarer's systems online, while Ren treated a wounded technician caught in the crossfire. Earth Command had locked down the entire sector. No ships in, no ships out. They were trapped. But inside the chamber, time slowed. Anya stood in the center, heart pounding. The walls pulsed with colors she had no name for. Images flickered, cities of glass floating in gas giants, forests that sang in harmony, oceans that remembered every drop that ever fell. These were not just pictures. They were lives. Whole civilizations stored in light. A voice spoke, not in her ears, but in her mind. Gentle. Ancient. Sad. "You are the bridge," it said. "I don't know how," Anya whispered. "You already do." She felt it then. A pull in her chest, like a thread connecting her to something vast. The key Kel spoke of wasn't a tool. It was a role, and she had been born for it. Back on the command deck, Mara watched the alien ship brighten. Its surface rippled like water under moonlight. Sensors went wild. Gravity fluctuations, quantum echoes, energy readings off the scale. But the strangest thing was the silence. Not the dead quiet of the silence event, but a deep, calm stillness like the universe was holding its breath. Then the Keeper's vessel moved. It didn't fire weapons. Didn't send drones. It simply reached. A tendril of dark space stretched toward the Ark. Not to destroy, but to smother. To erase. "They're trying to collapse the chamber," Elias said, staring at the data stream. "If they succeed, Anya, and every memory in that archive will vanish like they never existed." Mara turned to Jax. "Can we power the Wayfarer's shields? Redirect energy to the Ark?" "Maybe," he said, fingers flying over the console. "But it'll burn out the core in minutes." "Do it." As Jax rerouted power, Tessa picked up a new signal, not from the Keepers, but from Earth. Every major city, every station, every ship in orbit was broadcasting the same thing, a repeating tone. The same 3 long, 2 short pattern from the original signal. People didn't know why. They just felt it, like a call in their bones. The key is waking up in others, Elias realized. Not just Anya. All over Earth, people with the sequence are hearing it. But it wasn't enough. The Keeper's tendril was almost at the Ark. Inside the chamber, Anya fell to her knees. The memories flooded her, too many, too fast. She saw the moment the silence began. Saw the Keepers, once kind, now broken by fear, cutting the threads between worlds to save reality from itself. She saw Proxima B fall not to war, but to loneliness. She saw her own ancestors hide the key in their children's blood, hoping one day someone would be brave enough to use it. Tears streamed down her face. "I can't hold it all," she sobbed. "Yes, you can," the voice replied. "Because you're not alone." And then she understood. The archive didn't need her to carry everything. It needed her to share it. She closed her eyes and did the one thing the Keepers never allowed. She opened herself completely. Not just to the past, but to the present. To Earth, to every human listening. She sent the song not as data, but as feeling. As hope. Across Luna Station, people stopped fighting. Soldiers lowered their guns. Technicians stared at their screens, tears in their eyes. Even Kale, bound in a holding cell, smiled. On Earth, millions paused. In cities, in farms, in orbiting habitats, they felt it. A warmth in their chest. A whisper in their mind. "You are not alone." The Keeper's tendril faltered. For the first time in millennia, the silence cracked. Mara saw it on the view screen. The dark tendril shuddered, then pulled back. The Keeper's vessel dimmed as if confused. "What's happening?" Jax asked. "They're hearing her," Elias said, awe in his voice. "She's not just singing to us. She's singing to them." Inside the chamber, Anya rose. Her eyes glowed with soft blue light. The walls of the archive flowed into her, not consuming her, but joining her. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She was a doorway, but doors can be closed. The archive needed an anchor, a living mind to hold the connection open. And that mind would never be free again. She would live between worlds, always listening, always singing, never sleeping. Never truly alone, Kel had known this. That's why he offered to go. But Anya had refused, not out of bravery, but because she understood something he didn't. The key wasn't about sacrifice. It was about welcome. She took a breath and stepped forward, not out of the chamber, but deeper in. The Ark flared with light so bright it lit up the far side of the moon. On the Wayfarer, every screen filled with star maps, not old ones, but new. Paths through folded space, safe routes, worlds waking from stasis. The galaxy was opening again, but the cost was clear. Anya didn't come out. Mara ran to the chamber door. It wouldn't open. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "She's still there," he said softly. "Just elsewhere." They waited. Hours passed. The keeper's ship hung motionless. No attack, no retreat, just watching. Then a message appeared on every comms channel in the system. Not in code, not in symbols. In plain English spoken in 1,000 voices at once, "We hear you." Earth Command went silent. No orders, no demands. Just stunned awe. Mara looked at Elias. "What do we do now?" "We listen," he said, and they did. From the Ark, a new signal began to spread. Not a call for help, but an invitation. Coordinates, frequencies, names of worlds that had slept for centuries. The refugees were waking, and they knew where to go. Back on Earth, people gathered in streets and squares, not in fear, but in wonder. Children pointed to the sky. Scientists wept. Leaders dropped their weapons. The silence was over, but the real work was just beginning. Mara returned to the viewport. The keeper's ship was still there, but smaller now. Less like a wall, more like a witness. They hadn't come to destroy. They'd come to see if it was possible. If a young, messy species could do what the old ones could not, choose connection over fear. And humanity had said yes. In the hidden lab, Kyle sat alone, no longer a prisoner. The soldiers had left, ashamed. He looked at the empty cryopod that once held him and whispered, "You were right to wait." Far below, in the heart of the Ark, Anya stood in a sea of light, holding the thread between all things. She was tired, but she was not afraid. Because for the first time since the stars were born, no one was listening alone. The first alien stepped onto Luna Station not with weapons, but with open hands. It was tall, its skin like polished bronze, eyes large and dark as deep space. It wore no armor, carried no device, just a simple robe woven from starlight threads. Behind it, more emerged from the Ark, beings of crystal, mist, fur, and feather. Some walked, some floated, some moved in ways human eyes struggled to follow, but all of them looked around with something like wonder. Mara stood at the airlock entrance alone. No soldiers, no guns, just her in a plain flight suit, heart pounding but steady. She had insisted on being the one to greet them. Not as an officer, not as a human, just as someone who said yes when the universe asked, the bronze-skinned being stopped a few meters away. It tilted its head, then placed a hand over its chest, a gesture Elias had seen in the archive logs. A sign of peace. Of respect, Mara mirrored it. No words were spoken. None were needed. The connection was already there, humming in the air like a shared breath. Back on Earth, cities held their breath. News feeds showed the moment live. Billions watched as the first true alien visitor touched human-made ground. Some feared, some wept. Most just stared, as if waking from a long dream. In the days that followed, the Ark opened fully. Cryopods released their sleepers one by one. Each arrival was met with care. Medical teams, translators, quiet rooms. The refugees were weak, confused, grieving, but they were alive, and they were safe. Elias worked non-stop, helping decode their languages, not with machines, but with patience. He learned that the bronze being's name meant listener of lost songs. Another, a floating cloud of silver motes, called itself Memory of Falling Rain. Their names were not labels, but stories. Kale moved among them like a bridge. He spoke their old tongues, shared memories of Proxima B, and listened to theirs. He was no longer just a survivor. He was a witness, but the true heart of it all remained in the Ark's chamber. Anya never left. She couldn't. Her body was still there, suspended in soft light, eyes closed, face calm. But her presence filled the station. Crew members reported hearing her voice in quiet moments, guiding a lost child, calming a panicked refugee, humming a lullaby in a language no one knew but everyone understood. She was the anchor, the thread holding the new connection steady. Then came the day the keeper spoke, not through weapons, not through silence, but through a single message, broadcast across every channel in every language, human and alien alike. We watched. We doubted. You proved us wrong. The message ended with coordinates, not of a weapon, not of a prison, but of a gathering place, a neutral world untouched by war or silence, an invitation. Mara knew what it meant. The old ones weren't surrendering. They were asking to join. Earth's leaders argued for weeks. Some wanted to refuse. Some wanted to demand answers. But Mara, Elias, Kale, and the refugees stood together and said one thing: "We welcome them." So the first true Galactic Council began, not in a war room, but in a garden built on Luna's surface under a dome open to the stars. Humans sat beside crystal beings, mistwalkers, and bronze-skinned listeners. And at the center, a projection of Anya's face, gentle, smiling, present. The keepers arrived last, not as conquerors, but as penitents. They had no faces, no bodies, just shifting forms of light and shadow. They spoke through thought, not sound. "We sealed the sky to save it," they said. "But we forgot that life needs more than safety. It needs song," Mara stood. "You don't have to fix it alone anymore." And that was the turning point. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to heal. Old quarantines lifted. Lost colonies reconnected. The silence didn't vanish, it softened like a scar turning to skin. The quantum wounds in reality didn't close, but they stopped bleeding. Because now minds reached across the dark not with fear, but with care. Earth changed too. No more secret missions. No more hoarding knowledge. Schools taught alien languages. Hospitals learned to heal non-human bodies. Children played with refugee kids who saw in colors humans couldn't name. The Wayfarer was retired not as a warship, but as a peace vessel, its first mission to carry seeds, medicine, and music to worlds just waking up. Mara never returned to military command. She became a guide, helping new arrivals find their place. Elias led the first joint archive, where human history and alien memory grew together like intertwined roots. Kyle traveled the stars again, not as a ghost of the past, but as a messenger of what could be. And Anya, she remained in the chamber, but she was never alone. Every day someone visited, brought her a flower, a poem, a piece of music. They spoke to her like she was right there. And sometimes the lights in the chamber would brighten in response. A flicker, a pulse. A thank you. Years passed. The first human alien child was born on Mars, a girl with bronze skin and human eyes. She cried the same way all babies do, and when she slept she dreamed in 2 languages at once. One evening Mara stood on Luna's surface looking up. The stars were brighter now, not because they shone more, but because the fear that dimmed them was gone. A soft voice spoke beside her, not aloud, but in her mind. "Thank you for opening the door." Mara smiled. "We didn't open it for you. We opened it for us." And in that moment, the cosmos didn't feel vast and cold anymore. It felt like home. Because the truth was simple. The universe had never turned its back. It had just been waiting for someone to say, "Come in." And humanity, messy and loud and full of hope, had finally answered.